Well, it is now noon. Today being a wonderful day, May 3rd of 2022. So welcome everybody to Hot Topic Tuesday. Today we have the star with us, Mr. Chris Hendrix. So everybody welcome. I'm just going to let him take over, sit back and enjoy. So here we go.
All right, I'm going to let it rip, Darwin, because I've got a lot of stuff I want to chat with them about in not so much of an orderly fashion, but let's just see how this plays out. But good afternoon, everybody. So Darwin, I was counting this morning. I think this is Hot Topic 20. So what I thought I wanted to chat with you guys is a little bit, I got 4 things I want to talk about. Just kind of want to talk a little bit about the market. And Darwin, I should say before I get started that, my attorney makes me make these recommendations, but this is Chris Hendrix's opinion. And this is Chris Hendrix's view on the market. So if you're recording this, I would just ask you to, use this wisely. I'm half kidding, but let's go ahead and jump in, because I want to talk about the market, what we need to be focused on, a little bit of a look ahead. And then Darwin, I'm going to let you keep track of the time, but if we have time for a question or two at the end, I'll let you monitor the chat. So let's get rolling. So the first thing is, does the market feel like it's slowing down or is a little bit slower than normal? So, I guess I'm here to hopefully give you guys some intel that you might be able to use either mentally or with your clients. But the first thing is, it's not, albeit it might feel that way. So a couple things I would share with you right out of the chute is our average sales price is up 11%. And in the first 3.5, 4 months of the year, we've taken over 1,100 listings. We've taken over 625 new listings, which you might find it interesting. Now, that is double the number of active listings we have. So you guys have been working, and clearly things like listing boot camp, coaching with Alex and Dawn, either in a group or one-on-one setting, or just what you've been doing with the marketing department individually. But clearly it's working. And our units, maybe be the one thing that's a little bit off this year is we're off 15% in units, but we're getting, I don't want to say bailed out, but I think the balancing act for us has been our average sales price, which is up again, like we spoke. So what's going on with the rest of the market? And what's going on with the rest of the MLSs? So their average sales price is up 8%. Inventory's up 1%. And I think we've seen that creeping, albeit those of you that are out till 9 o'clock and every property you're writing on seems like it's 30 or 40 offers. Doesn't feel that way, but inventory is actually up 1%. So if you go into My Real Source or Paragon or Real Comp and you look, inventory's creeping up. There's really no change in the number of new listings. Days on market is thinner and is going down. It's sitting at 34 right now. And then closed sales and pendings, first quarter, not first 4 months of the year, but first quarter is off 7% and 5% in new pendings. So again, I just want to share some things with you because somebody made a quote to me last year when all heck was breaking loose of, when you've been going 175 miles an hour and you only go 125, it feels like it's slowing down. And the reality of it is it's not slowing down. And now we're heading into May, which we've certainly seen a pickup from, March to April. So let me keep talking about. So what's our focus? And I mean, this sounds like a broken record, but I think it never should leave your attention span. You should wake up every day thinking inventory, inventory, inventory. I mean, the best listing weeks of the year will be these next 3 weeks. Inventory's been rising. It's actually up 25% in the last 30 to 40 days. So that's the number of new listings taken and the number of listings that are on the market, albeit it's not enough, right, gang? But we've seen that movement. And I think it is critical that each one of you have a listing strategy for your business. We know hope is a bad strategy, but I think it's really critical that each one of you have a very specific listing strategy for your business. Now, whatever that is that works for you, at the end of the day, we're in the results, not the try business. So if reaching out to your sphere each and every day, having conversations, you know, what's changing in your life? What's going on in your life? Are you in the right home? Are you in the right home for the future? I mean, lifestyle changes every single day. We know this, right? Lifestyle changes. We graduate our last kid. Our last kid moves out. We have another child. We are now working from home, so we're converting houses. So it's critical that you know, that you consider something specific with your sphere of influence. The second thing is I think we really need to be working on builder relationships. And, you know, I know that's a testy relationship for a lot of us. You know, sometimes they don't see the value in us that our regular clients do, but we're in a listing poor market. We don't have enough homes for the buyer demand that's out there. And here's a group that can help us fix it, or at least give us solutions for those sellers, right? That want to sell, but aren't going to sell till they find a home. So I think really thinking about that in your niche, in your area, should be another consideration. And then the last thing is really having a strategy for off-market listings. And I've been talking about this in the last few sales meetings I've been at, is, you know, a good agent can take a buyer needs, summarize that, go into the MLS, run great searches, do things like even going back and looking at expired listings and looking at properties that are not on the market anymore, and coming up with creative searches, searching NAR to find other MLSs that aren't in the Great Lakes repository. But an elite agent, and I want this to sink in a little bit, an elite agent can go find a home for any buyer they ever have. And this may hit a nerve. And I don't mean it to hit a nerve from the standpoint of, Darwin, what the hell are you doing over there? Excuse my French. Why can't you find a home for that person? Do a better job. I don't mean it to hit a nerve as if we're not working. I wanted to resonate with, if anybody on this call can raise their hand and say, I have a seller that would sell and buy if I could find them a home, then this should resonate. And you need to really think about that. So I'm going to move on to the next bullet and talk about, and our director of agent performance and I have a vehement disagreement on what we call this, but I call it leveraging your buyers. He calls it servicing your buyers. And whatever you call it, I want to make the point of what this is. So buyer demand right now is through the roof. I don't know if it's ever been higher. For those of you seasoned veterans, I don't know if the buyer demand has ever been more serious. I don't ever remember a day, for some of you veterans out there, where, you know, a house goes on the market on Sunday, Monday morning, they do a coming soon for 24 hours, and Tuesday morning at 8 a.m., there's 37 people in the parking lot waiting to show this house. I don't know if there's ever been a market where we're writing sometimes over 20, 30 offers for one house. So buyer demand is through the roof, but here's my but. If you don't service them, they're going to service themselves. Buyers nowadays, if we don't find them a home, they're going to go knock on doors. They're going to send letters. They're going to put posts on Facebook. If you don't service them, they're going to find it on your own. So even if you're not a door knocker, you got to get over it. Because if you don't, your buyers are gonna. And I think it's really important for us to think about that. I also think it's very important, as you think about that concept, is words matter now more than ever. I could line up 3 agents, me being one of them, in a room. One of us could go to a homeowner who doesn't have their house on the market and say, hi, my name is Chris Hendrix. I'm with Century 21 Town and Country. I'm with Coldwell Banker Professionals. And I was driving by your house and it looks like a beautiful home. Have you ever thought about selling? Now, we can all get that out of our mouths, right? But when the comment comes, well, tell me about the market, your words could be the difference between them listing their home and them saying, I'm not interested or I'm not doing anything. And those words could be as subtle as when they ask you how the market is. If you tell them the pain you're going through, it's brutal. There's no inventory out there. Every house is a multiple offer situation. Those subtle words, albeit they may have some truth to it for you, but those subtle words could be the difference in them saying, well, geez, I'm not going to try to sell because if I do sell, I can't find a house. And so I think that's really critical that we think about our words, truthful words, but words that matter. And so one different choice of words, if you decide that you're going to knock on doors or make phone calls or do those kind of things is, I don't know if you've ever considered it, but right now might be the greatest seller's market we've ever been in. And this might be your chance to cash out. Now that subtle word change might incentivize them to make the change they need to make. It also might help them from making a fatal mistake, which might be sitting in that house too long, waiting for the buyer or the listings to pick up on their end, which would cause their price potentially to sell. And if the rates move and on and on and on. So I just think it is really critical as you talk to your buyers and sellers about the pros and cons of waiting versus selling, waiting versus buying now, and on and on and on. And I hope that makes sense. The other thing is I think you really need to think about a farming geographic type strategy with the marketing department or on your own, because I'm hearing a lot of success from different agents who have a buyer with specific needs, and they are going to a neighborhood with a very attractive postcard letter stating something to the effect of, I don't know if you ever consider selling, Mr. Connolly, but I've got a buyer that's pre-qualified that would love to look at your home, and you might even be able to sell it before it ever goes on the market. And they're getting call to actions and follow up on it. So I want you to just think about that and make sure that from a focus standpoint that that's on your radar. So let me talk about the market. Darwin, keep track of the time and any questions coming in, but I want to hit a few things on the market. So lots of distractions out there. Lots of news entities trying to be the first one to say, I told you so. Whether it be inflation, interest rates, recession, and on and on. So I want to talk to you about a couple of them. I mean, number one, inflation is real. Can I get a thumbs up from everybody on this call who's affected, whether it be, getting gas, going to the grocery store, whatever it is. So it is real, but we know this, don't we, that the very best hedge against inflation, it always has been, and it always will be, is real estate. It always has been, and it always will be the greatest investment, return on investment, and inflation hedge. So I think that's important, when you're talking to a client, when you're talking to a buyer who says, you know what, I'm going to sit on the sidelines for a little bit, Darwin. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit on the sidelines for a little bit. And I'm going to wait for the market to cool. You guys follow this thinking? I know you get it. I'm going to wait for the market to cool. Then I'm going to buy here. I might miss the interest rate gig, but then I'm going to sell here, right? They're going to sell here and buy here because they're going to let the inflation discussion end. And that could be a fatal mistake because, yeah, they might buy here, but their home might end up in a different place. So that's one thing. The second thing is we've all seen rates move in the last 60 days. But I don't firmly believe we're going to see 6+ more rate hikes. I don't believe we're going to go back to my parents' age when they bought their first house and it was 12.5% interest rate. And they thought they got a steal. I don't believe the rates are going to move so much. However, I would expect them to move again, maybe a couple times. And I expect that they probably could be in the 5.5 range by the end of the year on a 30-year fixed rate. Now, all of us are sitting on this call going, holy smokes, Darwin, why'd you bring him on the call today? I bring on the call because you have to be aware of that. You have to consult your clients on that, and you've got to be able to guide them through that process. Such as, do we need to guide them if they're thinking about waiting till the fall, if their rate right now is 4 3/4 or 5%, and we believe it's moving up? Do we need to guide them on that? Do we need to have that conversation, not in a pressured manner, but in an educational manner? I think we do. However, there is one thing I want to point out on the interest rates is when those interest rates bounce, and we all have, that $175,000 to $200,000 buyer that had a locked rate, right? Back in February, couldn't find the house they want. And so then the rates have moved in the last 60 days. And so they no longer can afford the $200,000 house. They're down to 150, right? Or whatever the number is. You guys can do that math in your head, but their loan to value because of the rates has decreased. Listen, gang, those buyers were not winning offers anyways, were they? Those buyers that were buying at the absolute top end of their scale and were getting outbid deal after deal after deal, they weren't winning those rates. The rates, or the buyers that the rates are going to affect are not those people. Sure, it's going to affect their payment. Sure, it might affect their loan to value, but this rate movement, this 4% 65 days ago to now, I think it's about 5% right now on a standard 30-year, that will not price out that buyer that might price out the buyer who was in over their head. And last, I'm going to hit a couple things. This recession, lot of bubbling going on, no pun intended, on this conversation about softening, recession, yada yada. I'm just going to give you my opinion. I've spent time in the last 30 days in Vegas with the very highest level people on the Century 21 side giving us their opinions, having guest speakers. And then last week I was in Boston, and almost universally, none of them believe it's going to happen in 2022. They do believe there might be some softening. And softening is not softening if you compare it to 2018 and 2019. Softening might be a little bit compared to 2021 in the back half of 2020 when everything was just on fire, but they do agree that there could be a little bit of softening. However, across the board, their feeling is exactly like mine is that what happened 15 years ago when home prices were driven by bad lending prices is not what we have here. Back then, we had a flood of foreclosures. Those of you that were in the market back in 05, 06, 07, we had a flood of foreclosures because of bad lending practices with ARMs coming due, coupled with the fact that people treated their homes for some years in there. People probably got approved for some loans that they shouldn't even have been approved for, and they were treating their homes like ATMs, where the equity was spiking and they were yanking money out to do, to do projects and to buy toys and this, that is not the market we have right now. Right now, we have equity through the roof. We have a market where there's just not enough homes, which is very different, than 2007, 2006, and on and on. Buyer demand is at an all-time high. Builders can't keep up. And so I think just understanding those fundamentals with the market is really, really critical in understanding the difference. Now, does that mean we won't have anything next year or any softening? No. I think there could be some softening, and I would encourage everybody on this call to do what we're trying to do as a company, which is, there's nothing wrong with saving some money. There's nothing wrong about putting some money away. But I will tell you, and for the veterans on the call, I know you understand this, is that some of the greatest markets in history have been when there was a little bit of a softening and a little bit of recession. And so I don't believe that's going to happen. If it does happen or there is an adjustment, I believe we're looking at mid next year to the end of next year. But I think this year, this demand and everything that's happening right now is, it's let it rip time. It's full tilt, everything ahead. So Darwin, I got 12:20. I wanted to motor through that in case we had time for any questions. There's a lot of, stuff going on out there, but I wanted to kind of hit some meat and potatoes from my standpoint. Any questions for everyone? Anything coming
Solid
up?
stuff. Yeah, so guys, feel free to either put into the chat room or just take yourself off mute, and let's see what kind of questions. Not every day that we get the boss directly to be able to talk with us. So we've got him here. What kind of thoughts or questions might be out there? Don't be afraid to ask.
So Darwin, I'll keep us moving. But just, one question that a couple people have texted me over the last week is regarding the DOJ and some of these lawsuits. And again, I've already warned you all, if you're recording the call, I've already warned you I'm just kidding. But the point of it is you guys are probably hearing some scuttlebutt about the DOJ and their class action lawsuits and things of that nature. I mean, it is real. I believe more than anything else, it will be a distraction for us. But for those of you that don't know, this litigation and this investigation is around, really conceptually, they're feeling that homeowners and home buyers pay too much for our services. So I'll let that one sink in, because I'm sure they understand exactly what we do, right, gang? We just stick a sign in the yard, and then we dig a hole in the backyard and we bury something, and then we go sit home and we just collect cash, right? Okay, I think you guys all understand exactly what I'm saying is we work our butts off, and we do every bit what other professional organizations do, like lawyers and doctors and that, but there's something with our profession, and certainly with Washington, that I think questions it. And it's not just us this lawsuit entails. This lawsuit entails, they believe, title companies, mortgage companies are making way too much per transaction. And so they're, again, they're looking at this, and they're going to go out, and it's going to be expensive. I mean, it's going to be expensive for NAR, and NAR has a rift with them right now. I don't see it affecting you or your clients or our company locally. But again, I don't want you to worry about it. I know there's some scare tactics going on. But I believe it will be a lengthy process that they're looking into and investigating it. So again, don't let it distract you. Don't let it affect your day-to-day. Again, I know what we do, right? Every time we enter into a buyer agency agreement, every time we enter into exclusive right to sell, that is a relationship. It's an invitation. We don't force anybody into those things. And I think that's going to be a learning lesson on their end once they get into it.
Chris, we do have a couple of questions, and
okay.
One that I will hit with, we're still on the subject. Question is there any way that we can help in challenging this?
I think most of these things, on an individual level, Darwin, I would say no. And I don't think it's necessary. I think at a board level, I think any thoughts that you have, any specific feedback you have, I think route it through your manager to the board. I mean, I think one of you guys emailed me something that one of your sellers had received. And I think that feedback just, again, I don't think you need to fight it as much as the boards and MAR and NAR will be. I mean, that's, again, that's why we're part of these huge associations. Sometimes we don't see the value on a day-to-day basis, but this will really be a NAR fight and a MAR fight. It won't be a Luigi Berisha fight or a Deb Summers fight. And so I think, again, providing, and some of you are on the board, or on boards, I think just providing that feedback to the board is probably our best bet right now.
Yeah, it's really at their level, because I believe what we've got is a few attorneys who thought, well, hey, here's a great way for us to be able to make some big money. And so they're coming after a large organization. And what we can do on a local basis is very difficult. But that is one of the benefits of NAR. So here's another question, Chris, going back to the aspect of hedging with real estate against inflation. Do we have a way of being able to explain how investing in real estate hedges against inflation?
You know, so I've got a few slides that are in this presentation. I'm looking at the clock. It's 12:25. Darwin, I will send you my slide deck. But I think the concept, gang, would be the return on investment with a home. I mean, I saw a slide the other day that said a $360,000 house bought today, even with what Fannie Mae and Freddie are predicting in terms of home appreciation, Darwin, is a 425 house, you know, 3 years down the road, 3.5 years down the road. And so I think, you know, I think that's where the conversation is. The historical value of a home versus the historical value of, you know, sometimes the stock market, even though we've been on a wild run the last 2 years. It's that value of home ownership that we all know, and putting your money in places that you know are going to give you over a long period of time the return that that we know is going to be there, even if there are ups and downs. It is, you know, it is that mindset.
Really, it's a historical safety that we know. We've just got history that shows it is one of the safest investments that you've got when we put our money in it, and we'll hold it over time. So good stuff there. I like that. When are people going to sue lawyers for robbing people through their legal fees?
Yeah, and I would tell you guys, I mean, I would just tell you guys off the record, I was with
it is recorded.
I was with Ryan Gorman last week, and then Mike Meadler and the leadership team out in Vegas, and to a person, you know, off color, I mean, their feedback was the people who are going to get rich on this DOJ lawsuit and some of these things are the attorneys. I mean, you know, the class action lawsuits, the investigations, the depositions, they're the ones who are gonna get rich, and that's the difficult part of it. But I don't want it to, you know, as we're reflecting on that, you know, our day-to-day mission, it's easy to get caught up with when's the recession coming, when's the bubble coming. I mean, none of us really know. They don't know. And so as you see these distractions swirling, I mean, there's a famous man about 2,000 years ago that was in a boat. You know, it's not what's going on outside of the boat, right? The waves, it's what you're doing in your realm and not getting caught up in all this stuff, but being armed that when your buyers and sellers do ask you these questions, you have the right answers. And so
absolutely. So John Goings put one in here, which absolutely, we're seeing a lot of deals falling apart with many buyers. So it's time to have your lenders contact the listing agent, help get more offers approved. But I like John's bottom line message is that each of our offices is working with mortgage partners who we know are quality individuals that do a great job. So just from the point of what we're dealing with in the market, what a great thing to do.
Yeah, Darwin,
so
I love that.
I'll give you final thoughts on that, Chris.
Yeah, no, just wrapping up. I love that, John. I think that's a great feedback, you know, and I know there's a lot of touchiness with personalized letters, right, in multiple offer situations. But a great strategy that's undeniable is having your lender call the listing agent and, you know, and introduce themselves and talk about the qualification of the buyer. So I love that concept. All right, absolutely. I think that's all we got. I'm looking at the clock. I was not going to be the one today, gang, that was going to go over 30 minutes on hot topics. So Darwin told me yesterday, I'm not that guy. So appreciate all of you. Thanks for making the time today, and I guess we'll see them next time.
Everybody's waving. See you guys. Have a great week. Go ahead, get yours.